Hey, what's up everybody? Fuller here, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I am going to help you demystify audio modulation in Unreal Engine 5.3 using the audio modulation plugin. This is going to cover control buses and control bus mixes. We're going to show you how to set those up. We're going to show you how to implement control bus mixes into your game. And most important, we're going to spread a little bit of Christmas cheer as well. So welcome to the channel. If this is your first time, please like and subscribe, comment if you like, love your feedback and any ideas you might have, and let's get started. So basically when it comes to audio modulation inside the Unreal Engine, we have three basic things, three steps, if you will, to making this process work. The first step is the source. Okay, so there has to be a source of the change, of the modulation, something that's telling everything else to do this. A parameter, for example, volume, something is telling it, hey, set the volume to this. That is the modulation source. This would include a control bus mix. Basically, a control bus mix is a bunch of mixes of individual control buses or just one control bus. Think of it like if you're on an old a digital mixing board, maybe you're mixing a band and you got drums and bass and all that, and you got everything mixed and the reverbs and everything set perfectly. And on a digital board, you could store that scene. And then you could mix it more and change, maybe mix a second song and then store that scene, and you can recall those scenes. And as you recall those scenes, your faders literally change levels. Maybe the vocals are really loud on the song and the guitar is really loud on the song, and you're saving it in the scene. So what the control bus mix does is that's your source. That's basically like your scene. And so you activate and deactivate these scenes, and these scenes send information to part two, which is the connector, the control bus itself. The Unreal Engine documentation describes the control bus as a connector. Like in the audio world, say you had a guitar and an amplifier. Neither are going to work until you put the cord in between them, and you hook the guitar up to the amplifier with the cord. That's your control bus right there. And then that control bus allows the guitar to send the information to the amp, and then it allows the amp to play it. So your control bus is that pipeline, if you will, that source, that connector. And then the third part of the chain is the destination, which in this case would be, in this example would be the amplifier. In our example in the Unreal Engine, it would be a sound source, a Metasound, an audio component, a sound cue, a submix. These are the things that are being acted upon from the mixing information. So you have the source that's sending information through the connector, the control bus. You have the control bus mix here, sending information through the control bus to the destination. And that destination, which is assigned to that control bus, is now going to respond. So when the mix says turn the volume up to 3, it sends it through to the destination, and then the destination responds and it changes its volume to 3. And so that's how the audio modulation works. So there's three parts, and we're going to look at all three of those parts in this example. Now, I figured Halloween's over and Christmas is around the corner, so what better way to get in the Christmas spirit than with a little Christmas cheer? Here is a track that I wrote originally for a television show. This is a marching band version of the famous song Here Comes Santa Claus, which we all know, some of us love. Some of y'all don't like Christmas music, and I don't know what's wrong with you, but it's okay to like Christmas music. I personally like Christmas music. I like all music, but Christmas music is especially cool, very nostalgic. So for those of you who don't like Christmas music, consider this video a gift to you. So now there can be a good memory associated with Christmas music, the music that you learned about audio modulation in the Unreal 5 engine with. So I had these stems laying around and I thought it'd be cool. So instead of just demoing music and sound effects and dialogue, I wanted to demonstrate it through a more audio example. And the way we're going to do this is I have the song playing. All of the stems are mixed and it's playing. It sounds like the full song. We're going to use control bus mixes to activate and deactivate them and change the mix of the actual song based on the stems. So let's jump in and let's look at it. Here is my project. We have, let's start this off. We have this guy here, or girl, excuse me, walking around, rocking out to Christmas music. Little Santa ball floating up there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to walk on these panels, these little platforms, and this one's going to turn the drums up. This one's going to make the bass louder. This sub mix here, this control bus mix is going to make the brass louder. And then this control bus mix here is going to make the winds louder. And then when I walk off the platform, I am going to, it's going to just go back to the default main mix. So we're going to do that. We're also going to use the audio mix matrix debugger that actually shows you in real time which mixes are active and what the settings are, which is really cool. Okay, so we're gonna, I've got the world set up. I'm not gonna waste your time on setting up the world. I made some platforms and some cool artistic stuff, but other than that, basically we're just using a character overlap to trigger these mixes. And then we're going to, let me show you the song itself. So I've got bass guitar, I've got so I've got bass guitar stem, I've got brass stem, I've got the drum stem, and I've got the wind stem. There's like a 2-bar drum intro or 4-bar drum intro, so you only hear drums at the beginning anyways. So I've got my 4 audio sources here, and then I've created Metasounds for each of these. So this is a very simple setup. If you are new to Metasounds, go back up like 30 videos ago and go check out my Introduction Metasounds 101, and I'll show you how to set up basic Metasounds. But we basically have a wave player here that's looping. It's playing this drums loop here, and it's just looping over and over and over again, and that's all we got. But together, they all sound like this. Pretty rockin'. If I do say so myself, this is a pretty sweet arrangement, not gonna lie. It's mostly live instruments, which was fun. Okay, so how are we gonna do this? So the first thing we need to do is we are going to set up the control buses. We're going to use 4 control buses. Keep in mind, each control bus is a singular set of information. So we're going to be using the volume parameter. There's a lot of different built-in. There's volume, pan, pitch, filters. There's all sorts of built-in parameters that you can use right out of the gate. But we're going to focus on the volume one. And so I'm going to make a control bus for each stem that I want to control separately. So the way we do that, first of all, make sure under your project, you go to plugins, and that you have audio modulation enabled. It's a pretty new feature, and Metasounds as well, and you'll probably have to restart your engine. Once you have that enabled, you'll be able to do what I'm about to show you right now. So first things first, we're going to right click audio modulation, and then we're going to go control bus. Again, right now we're just making the connection. We're going to call this drums, and we're going to double click on this, and we are going to set the parameter as volume, because that's what we want to modulate. We want to modulate the volume of this, whatever is in this control bus. We're going to duplicate that, and we're going to call that control bus bass. Same thing, volume, don't have to change anything else. We're going to duplicate this. We're going to call this control bus brass. Again, these are all completely arbitrary. You can call them whatever you want. It does not matter. It's just important when you need to reference them later. So we have our 4 control buses here. Now, these do absolutely nothing. They are basically just the pipeline, the connector for what we're about to do, which is assign the destinations. So the destinations is going to be these 4 Metasounds. So under drums, I'm going to double click the Metasound. I'm going to go over, here's your Metasound graph, click over to source, and you're going to see down here this modulation in the details panel. We're on union. There's 4 different ways to do this. Disable, which totally disables it. Inherit, which inherits it, I believe, from a sound class. I think it says on the documentation. Override, which basically whatever, it overrides anything that's previous and it changes it to your new one. And then union, I believe, is kind of like a combination. It takes what's inherited and it combines it and it does some sort of math and then it figures it out. All that's on the document page if you want to go check that out. I haven't explored that in depth yet, so I'm not totally sure. But I'm going to leave this on union. You have to right-click modulate. So what this is going to do is this is going to give the Metasound permission to modulate. What's it going to modulate? It's going to modulate volume, but how? we're going to modulate volume on this Metasound, which is the drums, by the control bus called drums. So now what we just did, we basically said any information that comes through that connection, that drums connection, so if I have a mix sending drums to 0, that information is going to get placed onto this Metasound and it's going to apply it to this Metasound. So anything coming in the control bus drums is going to affect this Metasound. You can add multiple ones. I would encourage you not to get too deep in the woods because you might forget, you might have 8 different groups going, 8 different control buses going to one sound, and that can get really wonky. Now, the Matrix debugger does help with that, but keep it simple. Always, I think in good practice in gaming in sound design is always just keep it simple. Simple wins. All right, so we're going to go Metasound wins, same thing. We're going to click on source. We're going to modulate volume. We're going to add the wins control bus. Good. Then we're going to go to the brass. We're going to source, modulate, add an array add a modulator for that. We are on brass. And then we got one more, which is bass. We're going to modulate the volume through the bass control bus, not brass, bass. All right, so now we have all 4 Metasounds assigned to those control buses. Again, these aren't going to do anything yet, but we're really close. So we have the Metasounds, we have the control buses assigned to the Metasounds. Now, you see down here the control bus is one fader, because essentially that's what it represents. It represents a fader that's going to be controlled by a mix. So now, the fun part, we're going to right click and we're going to go Audio, Modulation, Control Bus Mix. And we're going to name this CBM, Control Bus Mix is a good naming convention. And we're going to call this, let's call this Drums Up. Okay? So we're going to double click on this. Now you'll see here we have 0 mix stages. Okay? So we're going to add 4 mix stages. Basically the 4 stems. So we're going to open these indexes up. We're going to go drums here. So this is going to be the drums control bus. This is going to be the bass control bus. This is going to be brass control bus. And this is going to be winds. Now keep in mind, what we're doing right now is we're kind of making a mix scene. So when I activate this mix, these parameters right here, the values, are going to be sent through these control buses. So control bus drums going to get this, bass is going to get this. So then any of the destinations attached to assigned to those control buses are going to be affected by that amount. So this is our drums up mix. So we're going to leave drums at 1. We're going to turn everything down to 0.1. So now we're going to save that. Then we're going to duplicate this. Let's do a bass up. Then we're going to do a brass up. There it is. And then one more, we're going to do a winds up. Again, we're basically every time we activate one of these mixes, all our faders change. Virtually, kind of think of it like that. So let's go into the bass up. And let's see what we got here. These are duplicates, so all of these are already populated. Drums are going to go down 0.1. Bass will go all the way full volume. Everything will stay up, also stay at 0.1. We're going to go brass up, same thing. We're going to go drums down to 0.1. Bass down to 0.1. Brass is going to go up 1. And the winds are going to stay down to 0.1. And then one final one, the winds. We've got the winds, and we're going to go drums down to 0.1. Bass 0.1, brass 0.1, and winds 0.1. It's important to know that this right here, the value, so over here is the decibel. So if you had 0, you're at -60 decibels, which is nothing. And if you're at 1, you're at full volume, which is unity, 0. This is normalized, meaning you can't go outside of that range. So 0 to 1 is your max range. And that's a good thing, so you can't screw it up. All right, so now we have the control bus mixes set up. Now watch this. This is cool. So I'm going to start my track. All right, we're rocking. Here comes Santa Claus. You can see the sleigh. Now let's pull up this mix. Let's go. Control bus mix, drums up. Watch what happens when I activate. Boom. These levels just got sent. If you listen close, you can hear faintly the winds and brass. And then when I deactivate, it goes away. Now let's go brass up. Let's activate brass. How sweet is that? So now brass is 1, everything else is 0.1. Let's deactivate that. Let's go winds up, activate mix. There's wind, I lied. It's winds and a little bit of xylophone. And then deactivate mix, and then we're back to drums. So you see how cool this is. Now basically we can create really unlimited versions of the mix and recall them at any point in the game. What's cool about this too is, let me show you this. This all works in real time, so watch this. I'm gonna activate this mix. Now watch, I'm gonna turn the drums down slowly. So this is working in real time, which is pretty hefty and pretty awesome. Okay, so that is how you set up the control buses, you set up the control bus mixes, you assign the destinations. Now, one last thing, this is useless if we just have to sit here and press activate. So what we need to do is, how do we implement these into the game? Now, when you start the game, you have no mix buses playing. And that's because there's nothing activated. So I want to talk real quick too about this debug matrix, because this comes in handy too to if you're just curious what mixes are being played. So once I start this, I'm going to type in this au.debug.modulation.enable.matrix1. Now when I hit enter, check this out. This is really sweet. So now we have an on-screen display of the mixes that are playing. None of these mixes are playing right now. So if I called one up, now you see CBM control bus mix brass up is playing, and these are the levels of these control buses. Control bus bass 0.1, brass 1. So you can tell now which mixes are playing. So if I want to go here and just deactivate all mixes, now everything's deactivated. So this is a really handy feature. And it's very helpful. Now, let's talk about how to activate these in the blueprint. Now, a lot of times if you're trying to figure out how to do something, if you just right-click on the blueprint and type what you think you want, it'll give you some hints. So this says activate mix, right? So let's go into the level blueprint. Okay. So I'm over here, and I've got these platforms here. So I'm going to right-click, or I'm going to left-click on this platform, and then I am going to go into my third-person map. I'm going to create an action for this. I'm going to add the event on actor begin overlap and on actor end overlap. So what this is going to do is when my person walks on it, it's going to do this, and when it walks off it, it's going to do this. What do we want to do? Well, when we walk on this one, we want to turn the drums up. So what we want to do is we want to activate the control bus mix for the drums up. So all you do is right click or drag this out and I'm just going to type activate and see what happens. Oh, well, looky there. Activate control bus mix. That's exactly what I want to do. Which one? Well, the drums. So we'll go control bus mix drums up. And then when I leave that, what do I want to do? I want to deactivate. I can deactivate a control bus. I can deactivate drums, or just to make it easy, I can deactivate all control bus mixes. So now let's watch how and you know what? Let's put a print string here. I always like some visual feedback as well. Put a print string, and we're going to go drums up mix. And then we're going to do a print string here, drums up deactivated. Okay, so now when we walk on this, we should see this. And we should hear it, okay? Let's let the track kick in. Got horns, now watch this. Boom. You see that over in the left side? Drums up mix. And then when I step off of it, drums up deactivated. So now we're back to the main mix. So let's do this for all of them. The way I'm going to do this, I'm going to click on this panel now. I'm going to do a right-click reference. We're going to add a begin overlap, and we're going to add an end overlap. And we're just going to copy this logic down here, which comes in really handy. And then I'm going to change this mix bus to bass. That's going to be bass up. Then I'm going to do the same thing on this panel. Come over here. We'll go right-click reference. We'll add a on begin overlap, and we'll add an on end overlap. Then we're gonna copy that there. And then this one's going to be brass. And we don't need the print strings anymore because we know it works. Get rid of these. Sorry for the kids yelling. My neighbors are playing, going crazy. All right, add collision. And I also have my window open because it feels awesome outside. End overlap. Then we're going to go here. Same thing, pull these out and change this to winds. And get rid of the print strings. So now we're going to get 4 mixes on each, one each on each of these panels. Let's do it. Where are we going to go first? Let's go to brass. We just called up the brass mix. Now we're going to go over here. Let's call the winds up. Winds and xylophone. Cool little artwork, huh? Okay. All right, let's go bass. Cool bass part. Played it myself. Thank you very much. A little hard to hear on your speakers, but that's okay. Drums up. Here we go. Same thing here. A lot of these drums are samples, but I also beat the crap out of a bunch of snare drums as well to give it that marching band vibe. And there you go. You step on. You get the mix, you step off, it goes back to the main mix. Brass. Step off. There you go. And then up there is my little Santa ball floating around just to get in the Christmas spirit and all that stuff. So, bah humbug if you're not in the Christmas spirit. So, you know, you're probably asking, you know, how do you figure all this stuff out? Well, one thing is to go to the Epic Games documentation, and there's a lot of cool stuff here. And that's also where I learned about this matrix debugger. So you just copy that over and paste that in here to your debug once you start. And then now you got, boom. Now you got this. And so watch these change as I walk on the panels. Here we go, in real time. Drums at 1. Bass at 1, everything else at 0.1. No mixes now. See, mix not available. Now it's CBM brass up mix, and it shows you the levels for each of the control buses, which is super helpful. So if you're having trouble in your game, you can pull this up and you can see what's happening. Alright, so that wraps up our video on the audio modulation inside of the Unreal Engine 5. Now obviously there are a lot of other things you can do as well, as you can use LFO generators, you can use the parameter patches and things like that. I would encourage you to check out the Unreal documentation to kind of explore that and kind of play around with that and see how that all works together and stuff. There's a lot of really cool stuff you can do as well. I'll have some more videos coming in the future on audio buses and how audio works inside the Unreal Engine 5. Until then, we'll see you in the next video. Please like and subscribe and comment. Let me know you were here if you have any other questions or if you have any insights that you've discovered along the way working in the audio of Unreal Engine. Until next time, see you in the next video.